Greetings. My name is Liza Sharp, and I am so excited today to get to share with you on the topic of intentional calendaring. Back when I was in college, I used to time block my life. I would draw out, no Excel sheets then, I would draw out the days of the week, kind of divided into morning and afternoon and evening, and then I would block in where my classes were. And if I had like semester-long commitments, Tuesday nights, I would block that out as well. And then I went to the library and I photocopied enough to get me through the semester. And then each week on Sundays, I would go through and I would add in my commitments for that week. And that way I knew exactly when and where I should be studying. So I did that back when I was in my teens. And then here we are few decades later, and I have worked with hundreds of people on how to live more intentional lives. And one of the things that I love to talk about is how to manage your own time. And so today we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to share my screen here with you. Intentional calendaring allows you to manage your time for more abundance and for more joy. And what is it that I mean actually when I say intentional calendaring? Well, it begins with a belief that we each have a choice of how we're going to spend our time. Now you may say, I don't have a lot of choice. My calendar is pretty filled up. But the truth is, you chose to fill it that way. You know, every decision that you make is a choice. For instance, you may say to me, well, I have to pick up my kids. But then the question is, do you have to pick up your kids? What would happen if you didn't pick up your kids? Well, they might wind up waiting. They might need to find a ride. They might walk somewhere. But you don't have to pick up your kids. You get to pick up your kids. It's your choice, and you want to do it somewhere there. And so what we want to do is really leverage your life so that you are choosing and enjoying living your life. And the way that intentional calendaring works is first it begins with a mindset. We prioritize our mindset for intention, and then we go from having that mindset to using the strategy of calendar blocking, which I've referred to just a little bit and we'll get into a little bit more. First, I want to talk about the benefits of calendar blocking, and there are a lot of them. The first one is we become more proactive and less reactive. When we decide that we are going to go ahead and plan out what's happening in our week, we are not pushed around by other people. Sometimes we feel like our entire life can be reactive. We have to meet a deadline for work, or we have to make sure that we meet a friend because they need us, or we need to make sure that we have picked up our kids or brought them to swimming. And so we can be very reactive. Or we can be proactive. We can recognize that we have these things in our life that we want to do, and we block them in. And then when something comes up, we get to choose. Are we going to move around our priorities, or are we going to go ahead and keep our priorities and say no to the opportunity that arises? Calendar blocking, intentional calendaring, allows us to free up our minds so that we can focus. Now, most people that I have worked with have lots and lots of thoughts running through their head, and many, many tasks that they are trying to remember. Oh, we need to pick up dishwash soap, or oh, I need to make a doctor's appointment, or oh, that paperwork that needs to get done, or I need to invoice. All of these thoughts are like in our heads. And when we get them out of our heads, we have the ability to truly focus on those things that are the most important. And in calendar blocking, we leverage our boundaries to work for us. We set those boundaries, and that helps us to become more productive and more joyful. So there is this thing called Parkinson's law, which is that whatever amount of time you have, the tasks you have are going to fill it to the brink. And so when we have calendar blocking, and you know that you have 2 hours to get work done, and then you've set an appointment to get your nails done or whatever, you have a hard stop that you need to do, and you are much more likely to go ahead and get all those tasks done in those 2 hours than if you had a long work day. Wouldn't that be nice, just to get our nails done in the middle of a work day? But anyway, that you have the choice to leverage your boundaries. So let's get into the process of how I guide people in how to calendar block their lives. The first thing that I encourage you to do is to clear. So when you clear, so we're going to talk about 3 areas. You're going to clear, then you're going to create, and then you're going to commit. So when you clear, you're trying to get all of those thoughts that are buzzing around in your head down. And that I call a download. You're going to write down all the things. You're going to write down all the tasks that need to be done, all the appointments that you've been thinking about but haven't written down. You're going to write down the letters you want to write, the people you want to see, anything that has been nagging at you, you want to just get it down. And there are a lot of ways that you can do this. Personally, I love to set a timer, and I find that 3 to 5 minutes is enough time to just get it all down. And sometimes my husband and I will do this together, and we'll divide up our life into different categories. So we'll do 1 to 2 minutes on the house, and we'll just think about what needs to happen in the house. And then we'll talk about our boys, what needs to happen with our boys. And we just give ourselves those short amounts of time to do stream of conscious writing. Clear your head and get stuff down on paper. It frees you to focus. Now, I have created a template so that people can walk through this process. And I wanted to just give you some pictures of what that looks like. But you can do it anywhere, especially downloading. You can do it on your notes app. You can do it with pen and paper. But I really encourage you to do it in the template that I have. It allows you to choose which area of your life that's in, so that then you could take that task later and make sure that it gets assigned to a time block. But you don't have to do that. In fact, you don't have to do anything with the list. The primary goal of this list is for you to get it out of your head. The next step in calendar blocking and intentional calendaring is to template. Now, what you want to do here is you want to just think through what are all the things that happen weekly. Remember me back in college? I was putting down my classes. Those were the big blocks that I had to deal with weekly. And then you're going to template all the things that happen daily. So let's look at the template that I have just a little bit here. And what you'll see is that this person has an exercise class that happens every week on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. So she's committed to that every week. And then she also has a friend that she meets up with and she walks with on Thursdays. So those are the non-negotiables in her week. And if we scrolled through, you would see that there were a couple of more things that she's committed to every week on those days. So she would put those in first. And you can color those in or whatever you like. And then the next thing that you do is you walk through your particular day. So you look at, when is it that I typically wake up? What is it that I need to do next? And you just don't spend a lot of time on it, just get it down. What is it that happens in your day in general? So now you have your own just sense of, here's who I am, here's all the things I need to be doing, and kind of maybe even the categories that they need to happen in, and here is the time that I have. And I find that when I do this with people, it doesn't look super intimidating. So it helps them to step back and say, now I have a choice. Because even if you're working 8 hours a day, you have a choice as to what you do within those 8 hours. And there are all different kinds of ways to leverage that time as well in time blocks. Okay. So now that we've gone ahead and we've cleared our brain of all the things that it's been nagging to remind us that we have to do, it's time to really step away and create. We really want to create space for us to live a life of abundance and joy. And so I encourage you to take the first step in envisioning the life you want to have. What would an ideal day or an ideal week look like for you? And I want you to visualize that day full of joy and abundance. What is included in it? I follow Jess Lively, and she loves chocolate. So she makes sure that she gets chocolate every day. What is it that really does bring you joy? Because bringing you joy is a priority. When you have joy, then you are better able to be more productive, you're allowed to have more abundance, and you connect with those you love even more. So prioritize your joy. And imagine what would feel just really wonderful in the mornings, what would feel amazing in the afternoons, and what kind of nights would I have in my ideal life. Now, I have created a visualization that you can actually go through, and I have found visualization tremendously helpful because we kind of let go of all of those buzzings in our head and really can get into the place of seeing our day. And so I am making that available to you, and we'll talk about that at the end of this as well. So the first thing you want to do is envision, what does an incredible day look like, and what does a really good week look like, knowing the life that I want to be leading. Then you want to kind of take note. You want to give space for your priorities. Now, many of you may have heard of Stephen Covey. He talks about big rocks, and he does an illustration. There's a video online. You can just Google big rocks Stephen Covey and you'll find it. And he talks about, if you have a container, like a bucket, and you want to put in these big rocks, if you fill it first with sand and pebbles and smaller stones, then the big rocks are not going to fit in. But if you put the big rocks in first and then you fill it in with sand and pebbles, you will get so much more in there, and you will feel like you have a life of more abundance. So my encouragement to you is to really get in touch with what are your big rocks. Put those priorities on your calendar first. If you know that your family is by far your biggest rock, then you want to make sure that you have time dedicated to your family. And then you want to be thinking about, how do I want to use that time with my family? Because I definitely don't want to use it nagging my kids. So then you're going to start thinking about, how am I going to use that time? So first note, what are your priorities? The second thing I really want to encourage you to do is kind of fun. I want you to think about your principles. Now, there were these monks. There are monks of all different kinds. There are the Benedictine monks, and my maiden name is Benedict, so I remember learning about their rule, and they have 3 things that they live by, and they follow that rule in their community, and it just creates a culture. And so I've always been inspired by that, and I want to encourage you to think of your family and what are your rules? What is the culture that you want to live in? For instance, in my family, we believe in adventure and retreat. So every weekend we try and schedule an adventure. Usually we call it a Saturday adventure, but sometimes it happens on Sunday. And then we also try and schedule a time of retreat, a time where we're relaxed and we get to just be with each other. So, or be by ourselves. So that's one of our rules in our life. Another thing that we've really been working on is having easy mornings. That mornings shouldn't feel stressful, especially for kids. And so we do eat breakfast together every morning. It's our priority, it's our rule, and it's something we enjoy. And there is quiet time every morning. Even though I have early risers, everybody is quiet in our family for that first hour to hour and a half. And it works with my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old. So I really encourage you to find out, what are the rules for your family and for your mornings or for your days, and then calendar around that. And I want to encourage you that if you hadn't made rules, you can always start. Like, there's always time to start. So there is a page in the template that I have. And again, you don't have to use my template. You can do it wherever you want, but for visualizing. And you can write down, what would I love to have in my morning routine if I got to choose my morning routine? Because you do. What would I do during my mornings? What would I do during my afternoons? Then it has a space for priorities. What are those big rocks for you? And then it has a spot for principles. What are your rules for living? And so now you have created an idea, a picture, an image of the life that you want to be living. Now it's time to go commit and decide, here is my template for the week. Here is how I'm going to live. So we're going to call this revise. You're going to go to your calendar and you're going to time block it. Now, I encourage you to have a key and to choose different colors for different areas of your life, especially around those priorities, so you can see what is really getting your time and attention. You can also see, where is it that I really want to be focused on my family? That's probably a no phone time. Or where is it that I really want to be working, and how do I want to leverage that time? What's the best thing for me to do there? So we want you to break your day into 1 to 3 hour blocks. Some people say they should be 2-hour blocks. I think a 1-hour block, you can get a lot done and it can really nourish you. So having 1 hour in the morning while it's quiet, so maybe not before everybody wakes up, but while it's quiet can be wonderful, or 1 hour workout. Or so you want to take 1 to 3 hours, no more than 3 really, and block it out. That's when you're dedicated to that particular priority in your life. And then color code each block. And so you can see this is a sample schedule, and we'll look at that a little bit more, but taking the time to just identify what colors really work for you is great, and what you want your week to look like in color. And you want to make sure you're finding time for your priorities and that you are abiding by your principles. So here's a sample. This is somebody who is deciding, because this wasn't what they were doing, they're deciding to start their morning off with an hour and a half of personal time. And they're going to fit in that time 3 things that I love Preston Pugmire talks about: getting in their meditation, so that's like their focus time, their movement, getting in some exercise, and getting in some momentum, looking out and planning their day. So if you can get those 3 things in the morning, I think that's just joyful. You could add other things in there, like having water or having strawberries or drinking a mocha. I love all of those things. So get those in there. And then this person has family time. So they were not eating together as a family, and she was deciding, this is going to be our time when kids are getting ready, and I'm going to make sure there's some time for breakfast in there, and then we're going to get them off to school. And then I really love white space. I think it's important to have because it helps you to breathe and to readjust into transition. And sometimes transitions can be hard. So we gave some white space. And then this person works for Plexus, and they start their Plexus planning first thing on Mondays. And you can see, if we scrolled down some more, there was some content creation time. There's other times that she also scheduled in there as well. So let me just give you some tips as you start this process. I want you to use whatever tools work for you. So sometimes that's pen and paper, sometimes that's a beautiful planner. I love beautiful planners. And sometimes that's a computer. Google Calendars is really easy to use with calendar blocking. And go ahead and experiment and what different ways do work for you. I love to work in pencil, but I also really love colored pens. So which one do I use? I've experimented with both. And then template what a week looks like, kind of bare bones minimum, and then use that every week. And then I just mentioned here, a great tool is Google Calendar because it connects on your phone and everything too. And then guidance. I just want you to remember to think about what does bring you joy and make sure you're scheduling that in. And then I also suggest you recognize, what are your pain points? For instance, dinner time was a real pain point for us. We always sit down and have dinner together as a family, but my kiddos were kind of bouncing and not following the rules. And that was a time when we decided to take a month and be intentional about manners. But it was super fun, actually. I just printed out all these manners and I put them in a canister, and they would take out a manner, each of them a night, and we would read it and talk about those manners. Actually, my dad was living with me at the time, so that was super fun. 3 different generations talking about what we thought about different manners. Everybody got focused, dinner got way better, and you can do all different kinds of things to really intentionally plan your life around your pain points and make those into places of joy. And why not go with what's ideal? Like earlier on, you visualized it, you talked about it, you can choose it. So why not choose? There was one person I worked with, she chose every week on Wednesday to have a different treatment. So she would have a facial, then she would have her nails done, and then the next week she would get her hair done. So why not just schedule in there what would feel wonderful? Because you get to choose the life you're living. Choose well, friend. Okay, and then just a little more advanced, if you want to kind of take it to the next level, do that download at the beginning before every month. And I would encourage you to do it with your spouse or partner or friend so that you're talking through things as well when you do that monthly one. And then do it weekly. Before your week starts, get everything down so that you can figure out where you want to go with that week. categorize your tasks by time. That's kind of the next level. Once we have them, then you can say, okay, what tasks am I fitting in my time blocks today? And then it's just super easy. You get there and boom, there they are, and that's what you're getting done, and your brain isn't trying to figure all of that out. And finally, set goals and break them down into those time blocks. So take the time to say, my big goal for the first quarter of the year is. So you have 3 months, and easy one to think of is that you want to lose weight. Well, what would that look like on a monthly basis? And what would that look like on a weekly basis? And then what am I going to do every day? And then schedule those actions into your time blocks. That, my friends, is what I have for you. Finally, I just wanted to talk about the resources that I have for you online. You can go to anintentionaladventure.com. That's me, An Intentional Adventure, on Instagram or Facebook. And you can go to /Plexus, and I will have for you the template, which you can get as a PDF or as a Google Doc that you can copy. You would just say make a copy, and then you can edit that. And you can edit it to your heart's desire because it's your copy. And I also have the visualization for you to think about and think through what would an ideal day look like for me. Thank you so much for letting me into your day today and for taking the time to watch this video. I so encourage you to live a life of abundance and joy because it is your choice.